the way that my dad and I were talking about you over the weekend is you have an expansion team. Basically, you're like an expansion football team in essence, and you're trying to fill the gaps in. And in the beginning, you got to pour a lot of money into the building blocks of it. But eventually, you're already going to have the left tackle, you're going to have the running back, you're going to have the quarterback, and now you just need to fill in occasional gaps in free agency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of like if you look at like college basketball, right? So we went through that phase, where it was in UK, Coach Calipari was known for it, getting all the great talented freshmen. Mm-hmm. Right. And then the transfer portals now changed the whole game.
Right.
Now look at the Kentucky team we have, where we don't really have any of these like standout freshmen. They're all like transfer portal kids that were at these lower tiered schools that have lots of experience.
Yep.
And, now they're outperforming, the teams that we've had in the past, and so the whole sport has changed.
Right.
And that's the thing about horse racing is change comes whether you want it or not.
Yep.
And so you have to adapt to change. And I think when the market has moved now for the first crop ever of horses that are more in the sale than they are being raced, if we went over the 50% threshold for the first time.
Right.
So, people are going to have to adapt to that because otherwise, you're going to go, people could go spend 20, 30, 40 million on yearling sales and you have 5 horses make the track.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if they all make stallion. Like you're not making a return on your investment.
No, exactly.
I mean, the other thing too is it produces inefficiencies in the stallion market because you see stallions be given up on because they don't have huge sales numbers before they even have horses on the track, and then the horses start to run on the track, and people realize, oh shit, we made a mistake. Just because they didn't sell great doesn't mean they can't run.
Yeah.
Right?
And then and so that's one thing. The other surprising thing to me is that we only race horses here every 5 or 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. In Australia, they race my horses every 2 weeks.
Right.
Yep. In Europe, they race them every 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
And Francis Graffard over in Europe, he's one of the leading trainers over there. He said, John, I don't understand why the trainers in America breeze horses. Mm-hmm. And he said, we don't breeze them. He said, we run them.
Right.
We run them on the track. Yep. So if you think about, like we're talking about not having as many horses to compete on the track. Well, if we just went from 6 weeks to 5 weeks, with the number of horses we have, how many more entries does that create in the year of quality horses?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, everybody's got to think a little differently.
Right.
You can't just keep doing everything the way that you did. If your program was every 6 weeks and that's what you did, if you're a trainer, you need to be adapting that.
Yep.
You need to be thinking about, you need to be trying to be a part of the solution to the problem of not having, enough horses, for the racing schedule that we have. Yep. And so we know the foal population is declining, but do you realize, what do you think is dropping first? The number of foals or the number of races?
Oh, it's the number of starters per race is decreasing faster.
Yeah, it's decreasing faster than the number of foals.
Foals, yep.
So the foal population is dropping because there's not enough races.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so, again, like it's kind of interrelated. Now, on a positive note, I'll say the thing that, and because I like to be positive, is the fan engagement. I never would have thought that I would have 30,000 followers on Twitter in a year, and, we set an internal target to get to 20,000, with my marketing team, which my daughter runs and manages all of that. And, but I think I'm showing that having a positive message out there and being real and accessible to fans and people, it is something that the fans want.
Right.
And, again, the sport, the owners and the breeders, some of them get a little too ahead of themselves because without the gamblers and the casual fan, there is no sport.
Yeah, we're all screwed. Yeah, exactly.
100%.
It all.
So why would we not embrace them?
Right.
Then it's just the dog show world,
and that's why I'm doing these events. Like, I had the Breeders' Cup. I had 120 guests that came off of Twitter, right? That, were people that got invited to a suite experience, that I paid for personally. And the Derby this year, we did it at Saratoga at Belmont. At the Derby, I have an 80-person suite that I'm, just bringing horse racing fans, people that it's been their dream their whole life to go to the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
It's so expensive now to go to the Derby. these events, these big race events should not be for elite people who, just don't even know our sport. And it's good to get new people in the sport. Don't get me wrong. But, I want that guy that is, he shows up every day at Aqueduct. And if you show up every day at Aqueduct, you're dedicated, right?
Some would say crazy.
Yeah. So, and you hang out with all the Jamaican,
right. Those are my people
down there, right? That's a great experience. And it's a good atmosphere. It's good. It's good fun. I want that guy that's always wanted to go to the Kentucky Derby, or that woman that's always wanted to go to the Kentucky Derby. I want them to get to go. I want these grooms, and we've had grooms get to go. That when I was 2 of Brad Cox's grooms, actually made it to our suite, and Brad let them come up to our suite when they weren't having to take care of the horse at the Breeders' Cup. And so, they had that experience. And then we had other owners, like I had Elliot from WinStar come up there and meet people. Bob Baffert came up and met people. Ignacio Correas came up and met people. Chad Brown came up. And the fans were like, they were just loving it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They're rock stars. So you're bringing rock stars to them.
Yeah, you're bringing rock stars to them. And, that's what I think the sport's missing a little bit. I think, I see people are, guys, this is fun. Like, when people go to races, they're with their families, they're having fun. Have fun with them, and maybe it'll energize people a little bit too.
Yep.
And that's one of the great things about Saratoga is people bring in their coolers, they set up their picnic tables. You could use a little bit more of that in other tracks throughout the country. I would love to see the guys, to your point, who are yelling at us from above when we're in the paddock. I want to see at Aqueduct. I want to see them at the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, me too.
Those are the diehard.
And I'm giving
fans.
them the opportunity to get there. Like I'm giving those people a voice and an opportunity. And look, I got trolled hard by a guy on Twitter. I'm not going to mention his name, but everybody knows him. Because he goes after everybody. He was saying I was a plant for Gainesway and the Japanese, and it was all this kind of crazy like stuff, and everything. And I just approached him. I sent him a DM, and I said, dude, I'm just a pretty straight up guy. Like, ask me whatever you want to know. Seems like you're really interested and passionate. And then ended up inviting him to Belmont, to with us, and so it took a situation like that and just
turned it around.
Use that person and said, hey, look, we're not what you think we are. I think it's good to talk and engage, on things. And I think good disagreement is great. I mean, I embrace all that. I think that's fun. And I wish that, I wish me and Mike could have like the type of relationship where we are doing it for the better of the sport and kind of going back and forth with each other, but that relationship's not possible.
Not now, but maybe hopefully in the future, down the line, for the betterment of the sport. Hopefully that'll happen.
Unfortunately though, guys, I think he's only interested in bettering the sport if it's his idea. He doesn't really engage with any other activities or efforts. If it's not his, his alliance, which I don't even know, how can you be an alliance if you're just one group, right? What is yeah, we got the confetti there.
Confetti.
That was great.
But how can you be an alliance if you're just one group? Like an alliance would be like, you got to have like half the farms on your side to call yourself an alliance. And so, that's where I just wish he would like, it's almost like he's trying to like emulate Donald Trump and Elon Musk, on Twitter. And unfortunately, he might be rich, but he's not those guys. Yeah, no, I mean, look, and like I said, I wrote him an apology letter that I'm happy to make public, after what happened at Belmont, where, that situation in the paddock, which I won't go into detail, but people saw, I thought it was bad for the game. I reached out to him. I reached out to his team, tried to, do things. And, he can't control himself from taking cheap shots, at people. And, he made a cheap shot at me in the paddock this weekend. I just didn't even respond, and, it's just, I can go up to everybody else in the sport and I can shake their hand and wish them luck in the race. And I really mean, I want their horse. I'm a big fan of Fierceness, but because I think Sierra Leone's a better horse than Fierceness, like I'm like, he can't even talk to me. Right. And like, if you can't respect someone else's horse like Sierra Leone, I mean, it's the first time Coolmore ever won the Breeders' Cup Classic. MV Magner cried.
Yeah. He
cried after the race.
He was speechless after the race. He handed off the microphone because he couldn't. It was so overwhelmed with emotion.
I mean, if you don't love the game enough to recognize that moment and how special it was for them and how much they've done for the sport and how much they've invested in the game, then like again, that's just like that's part of the problem. Like you got to be willing to. One of the best things I like, John, and you talked about it. You bought a horse from one of ours, and I'll every time I have a complexity horse, Mensa. Every time he runs, I get a text from Brett at Airdrie.
Right. Who's super. Brett's phenomenal.
Good luck. Yeah. Every time I have my Not This Times run, Tailor-Made's texting me. Yeah. Right. And they're watching, and all of our success is tied in with each other.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like it's like if your horse wins, like if that horse wins, I'm not going to think, oh, I was stupid to sell it to him.
Right.
I made the right business decision for myself at the point. Right.
Exactly.
And if you buy it and do great with it, fantastic for you.
Yeah. Well, we're all tied in together. I mean, there's only a limited number of horses out there. And so if you're rooting for somebody and it benefits you as well, then it's exponentially that much better. I will correct you on one thing though that you said, and I know you said it tongue in cheek in your reveal. I did have surgery on my mouth. That's the only reason why I wasn't there. It was I know you invited me and you wanted
wanted you there
to be down there and I would appreciate being down there.
Next year I'd love to do it with like the other farms and just do the top mares.
Yeah.
Like the real, like the ones that have the brand value to them and and have the stallion farms there.
Yep.
And have like a group of you guys that are there.
Yep.
And do it like, and like make it conversational where fans could like make comments and you guys could represent the fans and talk about that. And I think it'd be fun.
Well, and John, we're thinking out loud right now. We would be, wanting to do that. But I think what we could do is if we got a brain trust of enough of us, of 4 or 5, groups that represented a good number of mares, because we have 30 something mares also, is that, if we want to breed to Justify, you want to breed there's 4 of us that want to breed Justify. Well, then, not that MV is going to be there, but somebody from
Adrian was at mine. Yeah.
And we say, hey, if we're gonna buy these 4 seasons, then can we get a group discount? And I mean, what kind of advertising would that be? Where all of a sudden Coolmore now would know that Goodnight Olive's being bred there, our champion mare's being bred, and it would just be a good crossover, and they would get the benefit of the marketing, and we would get a little bit of a price discount as well. But it would be synergistic. It'd be that we're all pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, no, I think it was great. I mean, having Adrian on the show, people really liked that portion of it.
Yep.
We invited some of the others and they wanted to come. Some of them were traveling, a lot of racing going on and stuff. And we just kind of pulled it, together because I just wanted to get it done. But I think next year it'd be great to have like other farms and the top mares that everybody's really following, the top ones that are retiring and, and do that. It's good for everybody. Plus it's given the fans another access point.
Yes.
Right.
And it's a different one, right? Yep. So it's taking the veil away a little bit behind and providing them with something else to talk about besides just what happens on the track or, the bad stuff that goes on. It's another angle to give them, an angle into it. And who knows, one of those people might be a future owner.
That's it. Yeah. That's all you're hoping for is
just to go back to what I originally said. I think your outreach and your marketing has been great. And that's something that I think we could never criticize, and we're glad to have you in the game. If for no reason, then for you reaching out to these new people and, like you said, pulling back the curtain, because that's huge for the development of the game and development of the fan base. John Stewart, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with us. We'd love to have you back on the show. Appreciate it, man.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.